What's up, BookTube? Sandy Golson back here with another video. In this video, I am going to be going over my TBR possibilities, shall we say, for March of 2021. Now, this does not include the books that I'm going to have coming in from Book of the Month, at least one of which I'm particularly interested in, but we'll get to that at another time. But for now, I'm going to start with some of the books that I'm having under consideration right now. It's a little bit of a lengthy list, but I think it's a list with some good possibilities. Now, of course, I'm going to deviate from this list in many different ways, but at the same time, it's a good starting point for me, and I hope you'll enjoy where I'm coming from, even if you don't know where I'm going to end, and I don't know either. That's coming up next. First, I want to start with a couple of books I'm going to be wrapping up at the beginning of the month, hopefully. One of the books I'm going to be wrapping up is The Shining by Stephen King. It's a book that I've always wanted to read. I've got off to a good start in it. Very, very good. I'm enjoying it so far. It's as typical with a lot of Stephen King books, it's a little bit of a longer book. It's about 440 plus pages, but it moves at a pretty good pace, so I'm excited about it right now. Again, it's off to a great start, and I'm looking forward to finishing The Shining by Stephen King. Next up, I want to finish The Pink Pony, Murder on Mackinac Island. It's a book that I've been thinking about for a while, and then I finally decided to pick it up, and I'm off to a good start with it. I'm probably about 65% of the way through it, maybe a little bit more. It's going pretty well. It's got a lot of courtroom stuff, and I don't always like a lot of courtroom action, but at the same time, it's an interesting story, and I'm looking forward to finishing that one, The Pink Pony, Murder on Mackinac Island. Next up is a novella that I'm looking forward to reading, and that is Simplexity by Kiley Reid. Kiley Reid is a name that many of you might remember from the hit book Such a Fun Age that many people liked. I enjoyed it as well, and I saw this book coming out from Kiley Reid, and I thought, this sounds kind of interesting. So let me read from it right now. A 28-year-old entry-level worker at a design firm navigates the microaggressive corporate landscape in a quick and delicious satire by Kiley Reid, the New York Times best-selling author of Such a Fun Age. Yumi Parr is the new project coordinator of a Manhattan design agency. Set apart from her co-workers by their race, salaries, alma maters, perfect teeth, and waistbands, Yumi bears their grunt work. After one microaggression too many, she decides to implement a change. Either senior white employees with their mouthfuls of word speak will comply, or Yumi will learn a difficult lesson from the realities of a modern business culture. So that's an all too real occurrence for many people in the workforce, and I'm definitely interested in reading about this because I'm not seeing this as a situation that's getting any better for a great number of people, and in many ways might be getting worse. Okay, so I'm going to sort through this with 3 stacks of 3 to 4 books apiece. And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because many of these are books that a lot of you have already heard about, and so they're not in any way unfamiliar to most of you. And I'm just going to give a little quick rationale for why I'm thinking about reading each of these particular books. First, I'm going to start off with Truly Devious. I've had the 3 books in this series for quite a while. I'm a sucker for books that are written in either boarding schools or on college and university campuses. I think those are fun, or summer camps. I think those are fun settings for books, and so I'm excited about this one. I've got all 3 of the current books, and apparently there is a 4th book in the Truly Devious series that's coming out this year, and depending on how this one goes, that may determine whether I'll pick up that 4th book and whether I work myself through the 2nd and 3rd books in the Truly Devious series. Next up is the 2019 Book of the Month, Book of the Year, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is a book that many people got a little bit confused about. As they were reading it, they thought it was actually a real story, that it was either a biography or an autobiography, but it's actually not. It's a fictional story about a singer in a band and some of the things that they go through. And I'm actually really excited to jump into this one. I've had it for a while and I've been wanting to jump into it, and I think the time is coming for me to finally jump into Daisy Jones and the Six. Lastly, in stack number 1 is Goodnight Beautiful by Amy Malloy. And this one is kind of an interesting book. It's a mystery with kind of a voyeurism type of thing going on. The little teaser on the inside cover: a handsome psychotherapist, his lonely wife, and in his home office, a ceiling vent. You'd listen too, wouldn't you? Of course you would listen. I mean, come on, stop. Of course you would listen. So this one sounds really interesting to me. It's a really cool mystery, and I think I do want to jump into this one. This might be one of the first ones I'll jump into after I wrap up some of the books that are left over from February of 2021. Next up is Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell, and this one sounded interesting to me. So here's a little bit about this teaser first. The best-selling author of Then She Was Gone and The Family Upstairs returns with another taut thriller following a group of people whose lives shockingly intersect when a young woman disappears. So you got a murder mystery, it seems like, and I shouldn't say murder mystery, but you have a mystery of some kind involving a missing person, and you have, it sounds like kind of a closed circle trope, which many people typically like. It's a trope that is typically, very popular. I mean, let's be honest here. So I'm interested in this one. I'll read this first part of it because it gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. Owen Pick's life is falling apart. In his 30s, a virgin and living in his aunt's spare bedroom, he has just been suspended from his job as a computer science teacher after accusations of sexual misconduct, which he strongly denies. Searching for professional advice online, he is inadvertently sucked into the dark world of incel, involuntary celibate, forums, where he meets the charismatic, mysterious, and sinister Bryn. So that was enough right there for me to be interested in Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. Next up among my considerations is Detransition Baby by Tory Peters. Now this is a book that I discovered on Amazon just through searching and some recommendations that came my way, and I thought it sounded kind of interesting. So let me just read a little bit about the teaser on the inside cover. There's a lot to get into, but you can go look it up if you're really interested in it. A whip-smart debut about 3 women, transgender and cisgender, whose lives collide after an unexpected pregnancy forces them to confront their deepest desires. And so these are the kind of stories that are interesting to me when you have a small number of people going through a very complex, difficult, life-changing situation or situations, and how they deal with these situations when they are thrown into the middle of them. And so it just really intrigued me. And so I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give this one a try because it frankly sounded really interesting. Next up is The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. And this one I thought was kind of interesting. It was a book of the month book that came in. A Promise Could Betray You. It's 2008 and the rise of Barack Obama ushers in a new kind of hope. In Chicago, Ruth Tuttle, an Ivy League educated black engineer, is married to a kind and successful man. He's eager to start a family, but Ruth is uncertain. She has never gotten over the baby she gave birth to and was forced to give up when she was a teenager. She had promised her family she'd never look back, but Ruth knows that to move forward, she must make peace with her past. So I thought that was a great attention grabber right there. The past coming back to affect the future, and trying to discover and perhaps tie up in some ways loose ends, or just to see what happened in the past to get answers, is something that's just typically intriguing in books, movies, and TV shows. And so I think The Kindest Lie could be very interesting. Next up is The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlisle. This is a book that I've talked about before. I had on my list, I think maybe a couple months ago. Twin sisters, identical on the outside, dangerously different on the inside. I like sibling stories, especially when there's danger, missing people, potentials for violence. Just really sounds intriguing, but just sibling stories just really put a hook in me, and this one is no different. Next up is a book that I've heard a lot of good things about, and I thought, I think I should probably pick this one up, and that is The Survivors by Jane Harper. And I've heard a lot of people very complimentary about Jane Harper. So, Kieran Elliott's life changed forever on a day a reckless mistake led to devastating consequences. The guilt that still haunts him resurfaces during a visit with his young family to the small coastal community he once called home. Kieran's parents are struggling in a town where fortunes are forged by the sea. Between them all is his absent brother, Finn. When a body is discovered on the beach, long-held secrets threaten to emerge. A sunken wreck, a missing girl, and questions that have never washed away. So, again, this is, family secrets, secrets of a small town, converging in what should be a very interesting story. And lastly is kind of another closed circle type of book that I thought would be kind of interesting. And I think you'll see why. This is kind of like almost like a Lifetime movie. Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Amanda and Clay head out to a remote corner of Long Island expecting a vacation, a quiet reprieve from life in New York City, quality time with their teenage son and daughter, and a taste of the good life in the luxurious home they've rented for the week. But with a late night knock on the door, the spell is broken. Ruth and GH, an older couple who claim to own the home, have arrived there in a panic. These strangers say that a sudden blackout has swept New York, and with nowhere else to turn, they've come to the country in search of shelter. But with the TV and internet down and no cell phone service, the facts are unknowable. Should Amanda and Clay trust this intruding couple and vice versa? What has happened back in New York? Is the vacation home, isolated from civilization, truly a safe place for their families? And are they safe from one another? This is kind of like, it's like almost like in some ways kind of a typical, the power has gone out and there's a certain level of chaos and people are trying to figure things out. And this just sounded very interesting to me. It appears to be a relatively quick read, a little over 200 pages. So I think this is going to be a fast read and probably a pretty interesting read. Again, another closed circle kind of a story that just sounds very intriguing. All right, so that's what I have on tap, at least for now, as books that I'm looking at reading for the month of March 2021. So that's what I have going on. Let me know what you have going on. Have you read any of the books that I'm getting ready to read? Do you have any recommendations? Do you have any thoughts on these books? Maybe you have some suggestions for me. I still got to figure out my next Brandon Sanderson book, and I got to figure out my next Sarah J. Maas book. So if you have some thoughts there, I certainly love to hear those. If you have any other thoughts of books or authors in fantasy or even science fiction, I would certainly be interested in hearing some of those as I again look to continue to expand my reading interest in the year 2021.